What's going on, everyone? We are back for another edition of the Bleed Los podcast, Garna Sada. The offseason is underway. Shohei has won his fourth MVP, and there are tons of news and rumors surrounding free agency and potential additions to our roster. All that and more coming up next. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we dive deeper into off-season news. Tonight, we've got Cody, aka Canelo. We've got Anthony in the house, producer Roger behind the scenes, and as you know, I am Drea. Before we get into everything, we want to make sure to tell you about DodgersBeat.com. Stay up to date and in the know with all of the latest and most comprehensive coverage of the LA Dodgers. It is your one-stop for articles, interviews, contests, merch, and more. Never miss a beat, and check out DodgersBeat.com. Oh my gosh, fellas, I feel like it's been a hot minute since I've talked to you. I have missed you. Are we still basking in championship glory? Anthony, I'll start with you.
I still am. I think I will be until like the very first day of pitchers and catchers reporting. I think that's when I mentally turn the page. I'm like, okay, let's focus on this season. But yeah, a lot of the championship merch that I ordered is starting to finally come through. So like, yeah, I'm definitely like enjoying the moment still. Like I look back at like replays and stuff like that, and I'm still like left a little bit in awe. Like, how the hell did they find a way to win Game 7? They were down to their essentially the last two batters in that game. So I'm like. I'm still in awe, basically.
Yeah, not a day has gone by that I haven't watched and rewatched footage from those games. But before I talk to Cody, just tell me, Anthony, did you get that black hat? Because I cannot get my hands on it.
No, I just got the basic LA Dodger hat, the one that has the little like logo patch that says World Series champions. I didn't go too crazy this year. I got more sweaters this year, I think, compared to last year. Last year, I think I got a lot more t-shirts, but yeah, my wardrobe, I think is like 80% like Dodger championship merch and like 20% just my regular day-to-day clothes. But I didn't really go too crazy. Maybe if I do see something like casually, then maybe I might pull the trigger, but right now I'm kind of settled in.
Yeah, same. My stuff has been arriving. Cody, how are you? I haven't talked to you in forever.
It's been a whirlwind. Even though the Dodgers win the World Series, they wrap things up. Baseball business, it's business as usual now. And a lot of other teams, their offseason started well before the Dodgers did. So, been busy on the website, been busy on social media. And, me and Anthony even mentioned last week when we are in our episode where kind of just got to try to savor the moment of winning another championship. And, for me, even last year, I kind of rode with that high all the way kind of till October because I was like, we're the defending World Series champions. You have to beat us to, like Joe Davis said, if you want to beat the champ, you got to knock them out. So until somebody eventually knocks out the Dodgers, I feel like I'm going to still have that confidence and that high running into next fall as well. So, which makes it a lot easier to watch these games during the regular season, especially like this year, like we saw. You could make the argument that they did underachieve during the regular season, only 93 wins when we had them projected to win like 100, 100 plus, 110 plus. But yeah, I think it makes things a lot better that they won a championship, and now it's even better than that when they went back to back. So we'll see what they do in year 3. But it's the off season, and that's definitely what we're going to be talking about today.
We are. I want to get into so much that we've heard throughout the week. So much has happened, but I kind of just want to touch on what you said, Cody, for a second. Yeah, the guys kind of, I guess you could quote unquote say they underperformed in the regular season, but I mean, all the more reason that they weren't trying to win 110, 120 games. And do you think, Anthony, that it will make next season watching a little bit easier if they kind of drop a game here and there, knowing that the goal is always going to be October and the guys know how to get it done?
See, I think the issue with me at least was it was never like if they dropped a game here and there, I was like, all right, cool, as long as the process is good. The issue was the process wasn't good for like 3 months of the season, from like July to like almost the end of or early end of September. It was kind of like just awful. It felt like we were watching the same game over and over again. Dodgers Nation actually like ran a poll. I don't know if it was a poll or like they answered a question like, when did this Dodger team like mentally like break you? And for me, I go back to the series we had in Baltimore where Yamamoto goes 8 2/3, no hitters gone, and that's fine. No hitters get lost, but we lost that game in the way we did. I think a lot of people had the same consensus, like, yeah, this is kind of like the moment where Dodger baseball just wasn't fun anymore. But it also turned into like a catalyst for that team. I think that kind of like finally woke them up. Like this can't happen anymore. And then you saw the running way they went into in September and in October too. But yeah, Dodger games I tend to in the regular season. Like if they lose a bad game, I'm like, all right, that sucked. But like let's get them tomorrow. But I think over a period of time, if you just keep watching, 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 yeah, it'll run you dry and drive you a little bit crazy. But it's all worth it towards the end of the year when you hoist up a World Series championship.
It is so worth it. Yeah, that was the catalyst. Kind of like Drake was the catalyst during the World Series run. I mean, I think according to Miguel Rojas, it got like under their skin and it kind of was that thing that galvanized them. But yeah, so much has happened this week and I just kind of want to break it down. So I'll just kind of start with the biggest thing that happened was the GM meetings, right, Cody? So what can we like kind of take away as like the main thing that happened at the GM meetings for the Dodgers?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously the GM meetings, they're the preliminary talks before the big one in the middle of the winter and the offseason and the winter meetings. Kind of got the idea of what teams around Major League Baseball are, what they're going to do, what their goals are. You have some teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates who say we're going to add maybe $30 million to payroll. And then you have teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're like, hey, look, we just won a World Series. We just won 2 World Series. We're looking to go on a three-peat, get our 4th in like 6 years, 7 years. And, they're looking to still add. And from the Dodgers perspective, Brandon Gomes, gave us a lot of answers and kind of insight of what their plans are, at least for the early parts of the offseason, which is what we've kind of been extensively writing about. And we even talked about last time we were on here. And that is that they do want to address the bullpen, particularly adding another right-handed option for late innings. They've already been connected to a bunch of names. Obviously, the big ones that you would think about, like an Edwin Diaz. But they also have been connected to guys that they've been, trying to pursue in the past, like Devin Williams, who, is an intriguing option because he didn't have a good season last year. At face value, you look at his ERA, loses his closer job, but then some of the advanced metrics, they look really good. And, they're already saying that both sides kind of have a mutual interest of coming together. The other option, and they kind of didn't say it was a necessity, but it is something that you can look at with the team and the way the roster is constructed with Edman undergoing surgery and then the free agents that they have. There's an outfield spot that's open for, somebody to take. And, the shocking part of it was Ryan Ward was officially added to the 40-man roster, which has been the other big storyline of the offseason so far, because a lot of people thought, even that cover the team with us, they thought he was probably just going to, take his chances, maybe even go internationally. He would have been a minor league free agent, but they add him to the roster. That's probably their 2 biggest questions that they'll look to answer this offseason. But then again, this Dodgers team and this front office, if there's a player that's available, whether it's in the trade market or free agency that falls in their lap, they've already proved to us that they will go above and beyond and to get that player. And, there's a lot of guys that you can keep an eye on, on the peripherals that could be traded. The big one in my mind, I really want them to see how the market is with Skubal. If the Tigers can't, sign him to an extension, or if they can't get anything done, they're probably better off just, trading him now in the offseason, because it's a lot better to do that just at the trade deadline. But that's the type of the move that the Dodgers are definitely always equipped to make. Will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. We got a long winter ahead of us.
Yeah, and baseball would just break if the Dodgers got that. And I don't care anymore what they say. I'm just over defending us because you know what? If we're going to just have to do what Brandon Gomes and Andrew Friedman always say, it's like their loyalties to the fans of this organization. And they do a damn good job of, giving us what we need to win each year. But as far as like outfield positions, let's just stick with that for a second. Anthony, your ideal candidate based on some of the rumors that we heard this week of who could be ours, including Buxton. What do you think it would be the ideal candidate for us?
Well, the time of recording last week, the Buxton news wasn't available to us, but I had kind of placed Jaron Duran in that category. But now that the Buxton news has kind of come to light, now I kind of move him up that slot. He's under team control. Well, team control, I say his contract runs for 3 years, so we would be trading for a 3-year contract there. His injury history, a little bit scary. That's the kind of iffy part. And depending on what the asking price would be, is kind of where like I would draw concerns. But I feel like he would slot in really perfectly into our outfield. I know the outfield right now is kind of just Andy Pajes and Teoscar Hernandez, and Teoscar Hernandez only has 2 years left in his deal, so we kind of do have to get younger. But if you really want to prioritize winning and you already have 2 championships under your belt, trading for Byron Buxton would actually kind of like help you pursue that three-peat, because I have a feeling that that's what they're going to do this offseason. It's just worry about the future later. If you have the opportunity to three-peat, kind of go all in for that three-peat. And then if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and we go on into the next winter. But I would actually like Byron Buxton in his lineup a lot. I feel like the seamless is a seamless transition, and he doesn't have to have the pressure of being the guy here. There's a
Mhm.
ton of all their MVPs and all stars all throughout this lineup, so he can kind of just blend in and kind of do his thing, and he's a pretty good defender as well too. So I like the idea of trading for him.
I mean, I didn't even think he would be an option considering his comments from, the trade deadline time when he was like, I was going to be a Twin for life, and that was never going to kind of be a thing. But now that there's interest in potentially coming or trade going to another team, it's an interesting idea. And he's how old is he, Cozy? 31, and is that right? I know that he's crazy fast and would be amazing to be added to our
Yeah,
team.
looks like he is entering. Yeah, he's 31. He'll be entering his age 32 season. Yeah, he is fast, even for his age, 100th percentile in sprint
Yeah.
speed. I like to, the analogy I put into it, he's the Tyler Glasnow of position players. I mean, this guy has battled injuries probably every single year of his career, has never really put together a full season. And that was kind of the same criticism that Glasnow had as well, where when he's on the field, he was one of the best starting pitchers in baseball. We saw that this year, even when he, missed a good chunk of the season, but in the postseason, he was nails. And that's kind of what the Dodgers would probably say, you know what, Buxton, let's just get you to October. But yeah, it's interesting that he possibly could be made available just because of given what, you mentioned, Drea, he said he wanted to be a Twin for life. Well, a lot changes when the ownership group decides to just sell off most of the team. They put up the team itself for sale, ended up not happening. So they're kind of in this, purgatory state where they're not contending at all and they don't have any plans to. So he's probably seeing it on the walls. All of his friends have got traded away. It's a bunch of guys he's never played with before. And his career is getting close to being over, 31, 32 years old. You only got a handful of your years left, especially playing in an elite level. Why not join a team like the Dodgers and waive your no trade clause if they can get a deal done? But I imagine him getting traded would probably take quite the haul, probably more than what the Dodgers would be comfortable with. Like you're talking about at least 3 years control. I think he's only making around like $15-18 million a year with that extension. So you're talking about, at least maybe 5 or 6 prospects just to get that done. And I don't think the Dodgers would be entirely comfortable with that. I like Jarren Duran. Stephen Kwan's the popular name. I think it fits. I'm just not sure I would be comfortable with meeting the Guardians asking price in it, especially with the player that Kwan is. I feel like a lot of people need to kind of open their eyes and look at really the inside stats of what player Kwan is. And if they really, like you're telling me, I know Ryan Ward's defense is very bad, but you're telling me the offensive production can't be somewhat similar or probably even better than what Kwan brings you in the outfield. And Kwan doesn't even solve the entire issue in the outfield. He's a corner outfielder and he's not a right fielder. He would probably just slot right into left field. So you're still have an issue with center field. You still have an issue with right field because we all know we don't want Teoscar back out there. We know Andy Pages took a massive step forward defensively and offensively this year, disappeared in the postseason offensively at least, but still looked really good with the glove. And then left field, I mean, you would, if you put Kwan there, then you're leaving open the door that Teoscar has to start the year in right field for most of the season. So that's something that I imagine the Dodgers don't particularly want to do. And I know there's a lot of, why don't they try trading Teoscar Hernandez? I don't see that happening at all either. I just feel like they're kind of stuck with him. You hope that his offense rebounds. You hope that you can sneak him into left field and hide his defense, but you're probably just hoping for a better offensive year from him, similar to what he did in 2024. But I feel like the outfield being an issue is probably the best case scenario for any team because there's so many outfielders out there, whether it's trades, free agency, it's something that you can easily just, sign a Harrison Bader for 1 to 2 years. And then you kind of bridge into your prospects that are coming up in 2027, 2028. So I feel like that's the way the Dodgers are probably going to go into it. I don't think they're going to be all in on Kyle Tucker. or some of those other big names. I know Cody Bellinger's the big name for the reunion going around, and I would definitely love to see it. I just don't realistically see it happening, but I think the Dodgers are going to have to get creative with the trade market if they want to get an impact player. And, Buxton, Duran, Kwan, a lot of these other guys that are out there, maybe another surprising name. That's where I think the Dodgers go. They got to trade some of these surplus of pitchers in their system, maybe trade some of their prospects away. Dalton Rushing was a guy I put out there as well. I'm not sure where they go with him, with Rortvedt being waived and claimed and now in the Reds, which we'll talk about. But that's the fun part about the offseason. You can kind of just play with it all year. And that's kind of why I love this time of year, just because, there's so many things that can happen and you can kind of theorize.
I think there probably is a plan, and little by little, we're going to be kind of made privy to that. But what scares me about prospect capital is that I've been hearing like people saying, well, what about this kind of a package or that kind of a package? And on occasion, I'll see Hope and DePaula being dropped in as names. I understand that it's always, championships and parades over prospects. But Anthony, talk to me. Are they untouchable, Hope and DePaula?
No one's really untouchable. As we can see in other sports, you think guys they're going to play for their respective teams, and they end up getting traded for nothing. But no one's untouchable in my books, apart from like the obvious ones in our team. But like I'm talking minor leagues here. I think all prospects are prospects until they prove they're major league caliber players. But I also wouldn't do something too dumb. Again, I'm not a GM, but like I wouldn't overpay for someone if I feel like these guys are really, really going to provide something for us at the major league level. Maybe I hold on to them because there's been years where like if you traded a Corey Seager for, I think it was like the rumor back then was like Cliff Lee or something like that. Then you miss out on like Corey Seager, and Corey Seager ended up playing a big part for us going down the stretch all these years later. But yeah, I think prospects are prospects, but for the right move and the right haul, I would trade them.
So let me kind of ask you guys this next one, because I've seen kind of like the 50-50, responses when people are like, do we want Edwin Diaz? Do we not want Edwin Diaz? And you guys probably touched on it a little bit on the last episode that I was not on, but would Andrew Friedman, Cody, like make a move for something like an Edwin Diaz, considering what happened with Tanner Scott last year? And we have Tanner Scott still with us. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember my thoughts last offseason when Friedman, gave out these, multi-year deals and kind of big money deals to relief pitchers, re-signing Blake Treinen to a 2-year deal, bringing in Kirby Yates 1-year deal, and then, the big cherry on top move to cap off the offseason, Tanner Scott 4-year deal. That's the first multi-year reliever deal for a bullpen arm since, I believe, Kenley Jansen. And, even if you look in that deal in hindsight, Kenley Jansen didn't really end his Dodgers career on the best of terms, even though he still had a really respectable last, couple years in Dodger blue. Do they go in on Diaz? I would probably say no, unless Diaz really wants to get creative. Apparently, from what they've been reporting out there, is that he opted out of those final 2 years, almost $40 million, to get another 4 or 5 year deal with $102+ million. I definitely don't see the Dodgers doing that. But if you look at some of the comments that, Diaz's camp has put out there, it's that he wants to win. He wants to go to a team that is going to give him the best chance to, close out a World Series. And, when I was reading the column from Ken Rosenthal in The Athletic, I said, man, this kind of sounds like he wants to go to the Dodgers. And I've seen a lot of, Mets fans as well. A lot of my friends are they're fans, unfortunately, of the Mets, and they kind of said, it sounds like he wants to go to the Dodgers. That sounds like the team that he would want to go to. It's really just a matter of fact if Andrew Friedman wants to penny up the dollars for him. At the end of the day, it's a need the Dodgers have, right-hander and a closer. He would slot in right away there. I imagine you wouldn't have the volatility that, Tanner Scott had this past year, and even I expect him to rebound in 2026. I mean, you would hope. I mean, there's really only up from here. You can only improve from an ERA that was almost at 5. So I don't think Friedman gives out another big contract like that. I think the most he goes with the reliever is maybe 2 years. And that's where Devin Williams, Pete Fairbanks, they come into play here. But yeah, and then the other caveat to it is, Diaz, because he is going to reject the qualifying offer, the Dodgers would lose a draft pick, and they're already a team that's well above the CBT threshold for Major League Baseball payroll, so they lose a draft pick that way. They're a repeat offender, so they lose another draft pick that way, and they draft bottom of the league every single year, and now they have back-to-back seasons of having the last pick in the draft because they won the World Series. So Dodgers got to look out for the future as well. These draft picks, even though we don't see those guys for, several years, if at all, that's the reason why they're smart and they can maintain a really good farm system, is because they usually steer away from those players that are connected to the qualifying offer. I think the only player recently I can remember that they signed regardless of it was Shohei Ohtani, and that's a special exception. Shohei Ohtani is Shohei Ohtani. So they were going to try to get him regardless. But I would like to see it. It would definitely break baseball again, and a lot of people would be mad. But if he wants to win and the Dodgers have the money to make it happen, I mean, why not?
Why not? Crazier rumor that I heard, and I don't even think this is a possibility, but Anthony, I want to get your thoughts on this. Did you hear the news this week about the Padres potentially selling the team? The Styler brothers are kind of moving off into that direction potentially, to, move it over into new ownership. And there was also talk of Tatis being they're moving off Tatis perhaps, or he could be, sent away. And then somebody's like, well, we should just go, get Tatis. I'm like, right away, I'm like, hard pass, miss me with that. What are your thoughts on the whole Padre situation and a Padre that could ever be on the Dodgers? Because we already tried that with Machado, and I'm a hard no.
Yeah. First of all, I got this news broken to me by a couple of Padre buddies in my life. I honestly, I feel a part of me does feel bad for them because I know they're genuine Padre fans. Like they've been rooting for this team for like years and years and years, and that's their team. So I'm like, I genuinely feel bad for them. But at the same time, they kind of did it to themselves, signing all these guys to like monster contracts. Unfortunately, Yu Darvish as well too, out for the year. And he's just only getting older. But I also feel bad for a lot of Padre fans in the sense that their previous owner kind of promised him that, like, yeah, we would win, and he unfortunately did end up passing away, and now his family kind of has kind of ruined that for them. Um, but you never know. I guess the one thing I will say, it feels similar to the McCourt situation, but at this point, they're not bankrupt. But it takes is one good owner to come kind of save you, and now you're back on top of your feet and you're riding the wave to championships. So I'm a little worried that the right owner kind of might pick them up. They might see like, oh, this is kind of lucrative. They have a team here in San Diego. Maybe there's something we can do here, and like, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't see it with them. I think it's just so many bad contracts on the books, and I honestly don't think they'll trade Tatis unless they feel they have the right haul for him. I think that's kind of just more rumors flying around, people bored and want to clickbait articles and stuff like that. So I really don't see a scenario where they trade him at least this year. Next year might be a different scenario, and 2 years from now might be a different scenario, but I still see Tatis on that team, and I definitely don't see him wearing Dodger blue. I think the only time I would see him here playing for us here is like if he was at the All-Star game, which he was, and he was playing at Dodger Stadium. He was quote unquote the home team because the NL team is the home team at Dodger Stadium, but I honestly don't see the fit here. He's a good player, I'll give it to him that, but I just don't. I think Dodger fans and like Padre fans would actually go to war if like we made that trade happen, and depending on what the return was for San Diego.
I'll never see it. I just feel like he doesn't fit the culture. And I think culture is such a big part of what the Dodgers have in terms of like, they don't just choose players with talent. They choose players that they think will fit in with the organization. I just don't see that. I may not like the Padres, but what I do like about them is they keep the Dodgers on their toes in terms of competitiveness because they do offer that. And I don't want us to have a cakewalk season where we just kind of like cruise our way through, because I really think that we need the competitive edge with, the teams that really challenge us. So in terms of the new ownership or where that's going to go, Cody, we want the Padres to be a good team. We want the Giants to be a good team because doesn't that keep us, challenged?
Yeah, I think that's been the biggest difference between years past and the last 2 years. I think the Dodgers have had their challenges in the regular season where they've had to face adversity, whether it's, tight division race, whether it's, like last season in 2024, the Padres were one of the better teams in baseball. They kept the Dodgers on their heels on that front. But this year, it was kind of the Dodgers doing. It seemed like they blew so many opportunities to pad that lead, but it ended up, kind of being beneficial to them in the end. And in hindsight, you're like, it's a good thing they went through those bad stretches, because then you realize who the good players in the bullpen are and all that stuff. But I agree with Anthony. I agree with you. I actually do feel for the Padres and their fans, because it is kind of unfortunate with the way their ownership is. I think it's a real big slap in the face to everybody that kind of came at Seiler's wife, because she literally said this word for word, saying that they would not have Peter's best interests in heart once he passed away. And she even, I believe it was in an interview, she said they would probably just look to sell the team. And literally not even a season later, they're looking to sell the team. So maybe it's a good thing for the Padres. Just get another owner like Peter, or, like a Steve Cohen, probably with, the benefit for the Dodgers compared to like other teams is that they have other liquid assets elsewhere. So they have the, assets to invest in their team, not just a single owner and a single family. So the Padres, if they get a new owner that's, got the money behind them and has the faith in the city and the team, and they want to go all in, then they'll go all in. But I think Preller, love him or hate him, he'll be creative. I think he'll find a way to make sure the Padres are competitive this year and next year, and for the foreseeable future. They have a really good team still. They really just need to focus on their starting pitching, but their offense is there. It wasn't there in October, but they'll keep the Dodgers on their heels in 2026 as well. The Giants are another team I'm looking for this winter. They want to make some moves. They hired Buster Posey for a reason. That's a guy that's pretty much won his entire career there. And they traded for Rafael Devers last year, and he ended up doing really good things for them in the second half. Now you get a full season with him, and I imagine they want to probably sign a good free agent or two, because they've been connected to all of them, whether it's Ohtani, Judge, Carlos Correa, all those names that ended up didn't go there. Even the Rockies are trying to do some things. They bring back Deep Podesta. I understand it. They got to change something, but they had a couple good, outstanding players that showed up for them this year. Their starting pitching looked a little bit better, and then even their catcher, he won the Silver Slugger this year, so can't count them out. But I'll give them their flowers. But yeah, I'd rather the division and baseball in general just be competitive, just because it's a better product when the Dodgers just aren't running away with it like everybody seems to think they are.
I 100% agree. I want to see a competitive product by other teams as well. And I really think that just kind of makes for a whole better season. And look at how great it was to watch the Blue Jays against the Dodgers, as stressful as it was. I love watching that kind of competitive baseball. Just fantastic. But one move that came through this week that I'm not going to lie, I was really sad about it, was the Rortvedt news. I really liked him. In fact, producer Roger and I saw him today in Montebello. And I have to say the sentiment around him was that he was just taking in meeting all of the fans at the meet and greet. And even had a really emotional hug. I think it's on our website and our social media on DodgersBeat.com and the Bleed Less Network. Hug, like Rortvedt and Roberts were just hugging and embracing and really just kind of enjoying that moment. I could tell how much mutual respect they have for each other, how much the fan base loves him. And frankly, I think that stretch of time when we were losing kind of really turned around when Rortvedt came in and just kind of stepped up. And we wouldn't have what we have in, postseason without him setting that up for us and doing so well with our pitchers. So I was kind of hoping they'd keep him and maybe move off Rushing, even though I really like Rushing as a person. Anthony, what are your thoughts on that move?
Yeah, when I saw the news, I was a little bit heartbroken. The unfortunate part with every season ending is that you do end up losing players that play a part in that championship team, and Ben Rortvedt played a big major part in that September run, and even early into that Philly series, because he was still starting games until Will Smith kind of got that green light to kind of take over. And I thought he was kind of the perfect backup catcher, essentially, someone that you can trust to call a game. Didn't matter who was on the mound, whether it was Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani. He kind of would be a game manager essentially, which is all you really ask for your backup catchers, just to be a game manager. And it's a little bit sad to see him go, but it's a new opportunity for him in Cincinnati. And I feel like this offseason, or not this offseason, this past season was kind of a platform for him to kind of show off his skills and kind of show people like, yeah, I belong in this league. I belong up here. And who would have thought like the biggest trade in the trade deadline would be acquiring Ben Rortvedt. Like, could you imagine where we would be without him? Like the options that we had, even when Rushing got hurt, we're like, whoa, like our backup catcher right now. No offense to him, was like Chucky Robinson. Is like, what if Ben Rortvedt got hurt then? Like now we're like, we're really screwed. But yeah, I think he played his part, and a lot of people will remember him for what he did. And more importantly, he has to privately, at least to Miguel Rojas, show him that he did end up getting that tattoo. And that's the ongoing little theme here. But yeah, I feel a little sad for him, but happy that he has a new opportunity here in the bigs.
I I totally agree. I do kind of love that that became a running joke. Of we were with at Legends Attic Oral Story yesterday. We saw our producer Roger ask, Miggy directly about the whole butt tattoo and Ben Rortvedt. And then I know Roger is going to drop the interview later because he had a chance to talk to him today. So check that out on our site. But yeah, I'll just kind of push this to you, Cody. I mean, I just want your thoughts on Rortvedt. I mean, we couldn't even say his name at the trade deadline. We're trying to figure it out, and I'm just gonna miss him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot changes from, kind of a throwaway trade at the deadline. You get rid of one longtime minor league catcher in Hunter Fiducia, and then you get Ben Rortvedt coming back. End up playing huge dividends in the long run. We talked about what he did in August. We talked about what he did in September, stepping up for the injured, players, Will Smith, Dalton Rushing, and then even filling in for a few postseason games and getting kind of being productive with the bat in those games as well. So he'll be remembered as a champion. I mean, kind of getting thrown into a team like the Dodgers and then thrown into a starting role at that time of the season, for him to still show up and have, the poise and the confidence. I mean, that speaks to his character. So hopefully he has a, good rest of his career. If he ever finds his way back to Dodger Blue, that would be awesome. But going into the offseason, I put him down as a non-tender candidate for a couple reasons. He was out of minor league options. And even with, Russian going to be thrown around in trade rumors, I think the Dodgers, if they didn't trade him this past deadline to get somebody impactful, I think the Dodgers really do see the value in him in the long term, even though he will probably be the backup. This is my bold take. I don't think he's getting traded at all anymore. I think Rushing will be on the team opening day. He will be backing up Will Smith. Eventually, Will Smith, I don't think he's going to play catcher his entire career. There's going to be openings at the corners of the infield, whether it's third base, first base, if that's something the Dodgers want to do down the line to get Rushing in behind the plate. But I just feel like that's going to be the tandem next year. Rushing will get a full season to learn from Will Smith, to learn with the Dodgers professional or the major league coaching staff, and like how to be a better defensive catcher, how to, adjust that backup role. And Ben Rortvedt, he knows his role. Right now, it's just a journeyman backup catcher. He probably won't start in Cincinnati, but he'll help that young pitching staff out very well, who they already took a massive step forward last year, helping them make the postseason. So maybe they'll see him next October. I mean, that's a team that's bound to probably make another run at the postseason again. But yeah, I kind of saw the move kind of coming. It did answer the question I had, right when the offseason started, where I put out in my Substack and DodgersBeat.com, where it was like, what are they going to do with Dalton Rushing? Are they going to trade him? Are they going to let Ben Rortvedt start? Because if they kept Ben, he would have to make the team, or he would have been, DFA'd. I think what the Dodgers did is they signed him to a major league deal. They avoided arbitration, got $1.25 million, if I'm not mistaken. And then they put him on waivers and he gets claimed by the Reds. So what that doesn't have to go through arbitration, and he can't be non-tendered. So say even if the Reds do release him, he's still paid that $1.25 million. So that's pro bono from the Dodgers, helping him out there, sending him off on his way, kind of saying, you know what, thanks for locking this thing up for you. We'll give you a guaranteed contract and send you on your way. But sucks to lose him, but that's just the business of baseball. I didn't really see a spot for him on the roster next year.
Yeah, we have to remember that it is a business, and sometimes it gets hard because we do get attached, especially when you have players that you kind of, maybe they're not all heroes, but they all played a role. And especially this season, in October, you saw so many different players play a role that kind of added up to the championship at the end. But as we transition into the MLB awards, I just want to stick with catchers for a second, Anthony. Let's go with the AL, the MVP, Aaron Judge again. And there was kind of like a debate whether, he was going to run away with it because Cal Raleigh had done so well this season. What were your thoughts on Aaron Judge over Cal Raleigh? for
I
MVP.
agree. Aaron Judge is the MVP. I probably don't have a lot of fans with my family up in Seattle who probably thought Cal Raleigh was going to win it, but Aaron Judge has been super, super impressive for as long as I can remember. He's kind of been in one of those like generational runs as a hitter where you're kind of just left in awe. Is he's kind of one of those like you see if you're out like with friends and family and for whatever reason a Yankee game's on and you see Aaron Judge is about to take an at bat, you stop what you're doing, you want to see what Aaron Judge is going to do. Yeah, the postseason, his success hasn't been what he probably imagined and what a lot of Yankee fans imagined as well too, but. Yeah, for me, there was no doubt that he was going to be the MVP. I know Cal Raleigh had a really, really awesome season. A lot of home runs too, and especially in Seattle. It's kind of hard to hit homers there as well too. But for me, I just had no doubt that Aaron Judge would be the MVP. That's kind of it was. I wouldn't say a no-brainer because I really did think about it throughout the whole season. But I think towards the end, Aaron Judge, I think, did enough more over Cal Raleigh. But it was pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super surprised. I had a feeling it was going to be Aaron Judge as well, but I really did think that Cal Raleigh had an amazing season. But yeah, Cody, take me through your thoughts on the awards. I mean, I think there was some. We obviously knew Paul Skeens was going to get, the Cy Young, and that wasn't going to be like too much of a shocker. He deserved it, even though I want Yamamoto to get his Cy Young in the future. But yeah, you've got Shohei with his 4th MVP. I mean, the unicorn, no shock there. Incredible, season with all the things that he did to pitch and to go to the at bat in the DH position. But the one that really shocked me was the manager. Even though I kind of had a feeling Roberts wasn't going to get it. Pat Murphy was of the Brewers, walked away with the manager of the year, but Roberts didn't even get really any kind of consideration. And I know that who cares, right? We get the ultimate prize at the end. But were you surprised by any of the awards this week?
No, like Anthony, for the American League MVP, all the American League awards, I kind of had the same thought. I thought Vogt was going to win the Manager of the Year because of what the Guardians did, overcoming their division, deficit to win it, even though they lost in the wild card round. That's just earns a Manager of the Year, regards right there. Skubal, I mean, argument for the best pitcher in baseball. He had him and Crochet were pretty close, but the voters, didn't really care. I think he got almost every single one of those first place votes. So, we'll see what happens with him this offseason, if he's traded or if he stays in Detroit. And then Judge, I mean, as good as Cal Raleigh did, being a catcher, and I do put value into that because you're pretty much playing every single day. You're the mindset of defensive first, trying to get all the pitchers in line, not just the rotation, but the bullpen as well. Even though he did DH a good amount of games this year as well, he still caught like over 120 games, and he caught every single postseason game. So that goes for something for me. Judge is just the best right-handed hitter, probably. You're getting close to saying ever. I mean, like if you look what he's done the past couple of years, and there is a debate to say, who is better, in terms of who's the best hitter between him and Ohtani, I would say it's probably Judge is the better hitter. And that's the reason why they're, constantly going back and forth between ranking 1 and 2 and yearly rankings. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out next year with Ohtani finally back on the mound. But yeah, on the National League side, the Manager of the Year, that thing it does irk me a little bit. And it's because Roberts didn't get any votes at all. There was 10 managers ahead of Dave Roberts. Is Dave Roberts one of the worst managers in baseball? No. Does he have a very high payroll, MVPs, Hall of Famers on his roster? Yes, but the Dodgers had to deal with a lot of shit this year, whether it was injuries, keeping the clubhouse in line, making sure that they still remained focused on their goal, which was, to make the postseason, win the division, and then win the World Series. And he ended up, going 3 for 3 in that regard. But there's a lot of things that happened throughout a full 162 that, could derail a clubhouse, and not keep everybody focused. And I think that deserves in itself. And then playing in a market like Los Angeles, where you are judged by championships, especially with the amount of money they spend, I think that goes for something. And David Vassegh, he pretty much shared all of my thoughts. And the biggest hypocritical part of it was, why is Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager, who are they're top 4 in payroll, and he got, 3rd place votes when they had a lot of stuff happen in that Phillies clubhouse this year that I talked about. The Nick Castellanos drama. I've never seen Dave Roberts have a beef with any of his players. And even if he did, he would never make comments about it. He would keep that stuff internal and make sure that doesn't leak out to the media. That's the hidden part of Dave Roberts' game, is that any type of drama or beef, you will never hear it come out of the Dodgers clubhouse. The only thing they've ever really had happen was Trevor Bauer and his antics and what he did when he was on the team, and we saw he didn't last. He only was here for a handful of games. So other than that, culture is awesome in Los Angeles. It's not the same for the other team. I know Roberts wasn't going to win Manager of the Year. I mean, you look at the other years where they've won 100, 11 games, he finished second. The only year he's ever won was his rookie year as a manager when, they won the division and all that stuff. But I don't anticipate him winning the award again, but to not get a single vote, I just think is kind of odd. But the MVP, that's Ohtani's to win until it's not. I mean, as long as he hits and pitches at any type of level, even if he moves to the bullpen later in his career, if they find a workaround around that, he'll win MVP. I mean, I was watching John Boy and all them talk about on Baseball Today. They were like, well, what's the over under for, Ohtani winning MVPs by the end of his career? And they put it, I think it's 7.5, which would be, one more than Barry Bonds. And they all took the over. And I think at the end of the day, if he can play like this level, I could see him winning almost 10 MVPs, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
They're showing no signs of stopping with him. And I think he can, throughout this entire contract with the Dodgers, that's always going to be a window of winning. And if that's open to him, I think he's always going to put 100% effort. And we saw if you saw his comments after getting the award, he's ready for the next season to finally do everything from start to finish, which is starting on the mound and hitting. And he wants to be fully built up and, go deeper into games and start 30 games and also hit an elite level in the leadoff spot. So maybe 2026 is probably the best year of Shohei Ohtani. We were talking about it. He's never won a Cy Young. Highest he's ever finished was 4th. If he gets that Cy Young award or finishes top 3, I mean, you can kind of just start putting him up there into the great, not even just the greatest of all time in baseball, but one of the greatest athletes of all time.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a time to be alive. I'm so excited that not only do we get to see this greatness, and I mean, hopefully everyone's appreciating it in real time. And even deep down, when the Blue Jay fans were like, chanting, "We don't need you," I know deep down, like, that's just coming from a place of just, natural rivalry when you play any team. But everyone would have wanted Shohei. Everyone wants Shohei because, I mean, it's just, there's not even adjectives to describe him anymore. But yeah, Anthony, our other favorite topic came up this week, some news from it, the WBC. Love it, getting closer. And I think Pete Crow Armstrong and Corbin Carroll said this week that they're going to be joining, Team USA, which is going to be so exciting. I cannot wait for that. But one of the biggest news pieces that dropped was Roberts did an interview with Japanese media, specifically discussing if Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Sasaki, what's his take on them pitching for Team Japan. And he kind of didn't say that the Dodgers would be like, oh no, against it, they're not going to let them do it. But he also kind of wasn't really saying that they'd encourage it either. And you really have to think they're going to go right into our season. And being that the Dodgers tend to slow play things to kind of make sure everyone's ready for October, what are your thoughts on them, all 3 of them pitching for Team Japan in WBC?
Well, spoiler alert, I think all 3 will be pitching for Team Japan come WBC time. Now, I think Dave is coming from the mindset of MLB manager because WBC has no concerns for him other than like, let me get my players in there and out of there as healthy as possible in one piece to start our regular season. So I think a lot of the issues as well too it's not even just baseball related, but like in soccer, because I'm a big soccer guy. Every time you have a World Cup, the one thing when they interview like teams and their managers, they are fearful of it because they're playing quote unquote unnecessary games and you're risking injury. The cause for injury concern grows higher. So I think in the WBC, a lot of people, especially Mets fans, are still traumatized with Edwin Diaz celebrating and like just
Right.
completely shattering his leg into like one or two pieces there.
Wow.
But I think Dave Roberts is coming from the mindset like I think these guys are gonna pitch, but like let's be smart with them. Like let's not do what we just did with Yoshi right now, where we kind of had him pitch like on 0 days rest. Like let's not do that in March when we know we have a long season ahead of us. We're gonna play into September and October where our games really matter. But it also kind of opens up an opportunity for a lot of young guys on our team to kind of step up. If you have guys like Roki Yamamoto and Shohei, they're going to be pitching, and if you want to slow play them, like, well, that opens up an opportunity for some of our young arms to kind of like showcase who they are as starters. And I know we saw it earlier in the season with guys like Sheehan and with Robleski, like they kind of stepped into that role. So that kind of gives you an opportunity to show the Dodgers staff, like, hey, I'm a guy you can trust in case like you have to slow play a Shohei and a Yoshi. But I
Mm.
think that there will be pitching limits. I think they'll tell him like, hey, like for this game, like he only has like X amount of pitches, whether it's like 70 or 60, whatever that number is, they'll be like, this is how much we feel comfortable with you guys throwing. It's like this amount. But I don't think they want him to do anything like outlandish. Like if they don't want like if Team Japan is like in the final of the WBC, I don't think they want to see all three of these guys pick up a ball for them, essentially. But maybe if like one of them is slotted in, like Yamamoto's gonna get this game regardless. Okay, we want to see him, but like let's not throw Roki out of there from the bullpen, and let's not sure Otani kind of gets like 2 innings out of that bullpen. So I guess they're just trying to be overly cautious, basically, for the start of the season.
Yeah, we know how big baseball is in Japan. They're gonna want to see their players. I mean, there's no way that can ever be taken from them. That's like what they live for, and they practically worship the ground these guys walk on. But yeah, Cody, take me through kind of your thoughts on the WBC, and can Team USA actually take down Team Japan this round?
Yeah, I do enjoy the World Baseball Classic. I really like the roster for Team USA because, yeah, I'm a USA guy. We're gonna be rooting for this is the only time I'm gonna be rooting against Otani and Team Japan. But yeah, Aaron Judge being the captain, Cal Raleigh behind the dish. I assume Will Smith may be joining it as well, even though he hasn't announced it. Be the backup catcher, maybe DH there. They need a second baseman still if Mookie Betts is feeling up for it again. I know he enjoyed his last stint there. And there's really not really a dominant U.S. second baseman I can think of. So I imagine he would probably be the first one to go. But I'm actually going to go offbeat with what Anthony did. I don't think any of them pitch. I think the only one that plays is Ohtani. I think he'll hit. I think with what Yamamoto did in the World Series in this postseason, and I think what's the one thing that they both, all the guys on the roster have said for back-to-back years, they've played the longest, of any other teams in the sport. You started in Korea last year, ended in New York, started in Japan earlier than everybody else. And then you also ended the season later than everybody else, literally the final day of the year. I think with Roki Sasaki, since they transitioned him to the bullpen at the end of the season, Brandon Gomes saying they want him to be a starter, I think he stays with the Dodgers at their camp to try to build up his innings and be ready. And Yamamoto, I feel like he pitched in the World Baseball Classic last time to kind of showcase himself, and he ended up doing that, getting the contract. I could still, like Anthony said, still see them possibly go in and be allowed to pitch maybe 1 or 2 games with a pitch limit. That's usually what these teams do anyway. It's a bunch of like agreements with, the team, the country that they're representing, and what the organization allows. That's why Clayton Kershaw's thing was a big issue as well, because you get insurance on these guys when you send them over to other teams. So if they do get injured, their salary for that season would be covered. Clayton Kershaw's got denied because he was so injured for the last, back half of his career that, the insurance company basically said, no, we're not going to cover this, $22.5 million salary because of this guy. So maybe the Dodgers feel comfortable and send these guys out. But I feel like Team Japan has enough pitchers that they could send out there from their own country that are still playing in the MPB in Japan. But I know it takes a little bit of the fun out of it, but at the end of the day, I kind of want them to be ready for the Dodgers. The hitters can hit. They can go out there and hit. So Ohtani will be there. I don't think he'll pitch either. I think that was kind of just a one-off thing. He was with the Angels. He knew he was going to have October off. He was ready. So
Well, I'm super excited for what's going to come. I know the Dodgers will play it right one way or another, because ultimately, like, their loyalty is to themselves and their franchise, and they're going to, make sure that everyone is happy. Japan is taken care of, and it's going to be fun. But we also have to keep in mind that they're ready to repeat, and they're making no secret about that. But one thing that was kind of surprising that just came out yesterday is the Kiké Hernandez had surgery on his elbow, and I know that we were privy to the fact that his elbow wasn't 100% this season. But Anthony, are you surprised by this development?
No, well, we knew that he was playing in considerate pain. Just didn't realize what the extent of it was. But when he missed an extended period of time in that regular season, I didn't think it would be this severe to the point where he needed surgery. So when I was kind of scrolling to TikTok and I saw that posted him in a cast. I'm like, oh, he really got surgery on this. And then when he confirmed it, I'm like, and I saw I'm not gonna describe the graphic picture that he posted of his elbow. I guess that looks like it's somewhere in the clubhouse, but yeah, it's pretty bad. And like on a routine slide as well too, he kind of just like freak accident kind of just messes up his elbow. So I'm not really surprised. I'm more bummed for him. He's gonna miss the WBC, and he said it himself. It was an opportunity for him to play in his native land of Puerto Rico, kind of like give back to his home country there. So I'm bummed for him, but in the long run, I think it's well worth it. He must have been in like such I couldn't even imagine the level of pain he must have felt like just throughout, and like he kind of just put it all to the side and gutted it out, and he was rewarded with a Series championship here.
I'm just so happy that even though he probably was playing through the pain and the injury, that he made that incredible play, or several incredible plays, but especially the one in Game 6 where he was able to, have the IQ to be in the proper position to field the ball in the right location, get it to Rojas, and then even to kind of be collided with in the Pages, famous Pages catch, and just, always be putting his body on the line to get it done for us, because he was such a big part of our postseason. But what was obviously less surprising was the Edman surgery, because we knew that was coming. They had already told us that was like on the table for, right when our postseason ended. But the front office said that he would be ready for spring training. Cody, do you think that is realistic, or really, I mean, I'm thinking they'll probably slow play him, even if he quote unquote is ready, because it's just kind of the MO of the Dodgers at this point. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's kind of one of those things where even as the end of the regular season was approaching and we were talking about, once the postseason ended for the Dodgers, I imagine that Edman was going to go under the knife and get that fixed. I'm thankfully that he did, just because I didn't want to deal with him going on and off of the injured list next year. Also, not being able to play center field, all that. I do think they will slow play him. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't take any outfield innings for the first half of the regular season at least. But I think by the season's end, if they didn't find a solution for center field, right, or their entire outfield alignment, we may see Edman head back out there. He was severely limited. One of the things that makes him a bargain with his contract extension is that he can play a multitude of positions. And we really didn't get to see that this year. It was really just second base, third base on occasion when Max Muncy was injured. But, that ankle was just too big of an issue to kind of keep putting it off. The Dodgers just eventually had to bite the bullet, get the surgery, and then hopefully you're back at the start of spring training. And I think he will be. It's not too severe of an injury to come back from. And then Kiké Hernandez as well. Thankfully, it's a non-throwing elbow, so that could delay things. It was his left elbow, so it only really hurt him when he was hitting, and he mentioned that throughout the regular season. He said it only hurts when he's hitting. It only hurts, a little bit before games, and then he also was having difficulty after games, like even for normal day-to-day stuff like sleeping. I remember he mentioned that on a Dodger Talk episode in the summer, but he'll get it fixed. I imagine Kiké is back as well, probably later in the offseason. Maybe in February he'll sign a 1-year deal with the Dodgers if there's still space for him, depending on what Andrew Freeman and company do. But yeah, I think he'll have a good transition with his rehab. He'll be ready. Sucks that he can't play in the WBC, but if he's coming back to the Dodgers, hopefully he's ready to go by opening day.
Yeah, I really like him, and I want to see kind of the shades of, Tommy Edman from 24 season kind of come back into play, because he's such an asset to our team. So wishing him all the best, but I definitely agree with you on the slow plane. That is the best move. But yeah, I just kind of want to, as we're getting ready to close it up, there's been something on my mind, and Anthony, you and I are kind of like big football people. We've been plugged into the teams and the season, and as it's gearing up towards, out of baseball and more into football, there was a comment made by Jason Kelce recently, maybe not too recent, but I really wanted to get your take on it. On his New Heights podcast with his brother, Travis, he said kind of a comment that was really just a jab at the Dodgers. And I know you've heard this quote, but I'll just read it anyway. But he said, "That's why baseball sucks. You just buy World Series championships. It's the dumbest thing in the world. It's exciting that the team that spent the most money that everyone knew was going to win the World Series won the World Series." So with all kinds of sarcasm, laced in there. I know there's a lot to unpack there, and it kind of made me mad, as it did Stan Kasten, our president. He kind of shot back at it. But what are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was funny, just because like it is the dumbest thing in the world. The most the team with the most money ended up winning a championship, and it's not like there was multiple opportunities where the teams that we played on our path could have eliminated us. Especially considering that the team we started this off. I know we played the Reds, but I'm gonna ignore them for this scenario. The Philadelphia Phillies had 2 games at home, had us on the ropes essentially game one,
Yeah.
and they blew it. And it's not my fault. Why is it our fault that we ran a wheel play effectively and then second game like got out of that situation? And then for matter of fact, they also spend a lot of money, if I'm not mistaken, as well too, and they have really, really good talent on that team too. So all of a sudden, like just because your team couldn't beat my team, now that's the dumbest thing in the world. But had they won it and they ended up finishing it off the job and winning a World Series, do I get the luxury of complaining? Well, like they spent, well, you see, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but I don't know. I think a lot of Dodger fans, like, you got to embrace like the villain role. Like, as long as you wear like a Dodger hat, I know I'm wearing this one or whatever Dodger gear you're wearing, people are gonna look at you a certain way and like just embrace it, man. Like, there was a point in time where like wearing a Dodger hat wasn't cool, especially during the McCourt era, because like no one was going to the games because of the awful, awful product they were presenting to us. But I think you'll see that a lot of Dodger fans could care less. Like, I really just like I see that comment and like I kind of laugh at it and like I'll scroll through it, but like a lot of people will like argue it and stuff like that, like, oh yeah, but they're spending all that money, and like in my head I'm like, I don't care, bro. Like I have 2 world championships, I've seen 3 of them in my lifetime, and I know I'm guaranteed a few more runs as long as we keep doing what we're doing. So like I think it's just like Bryce Harper said his best himself. This is only losers complain about this kind of stuff. So your own player, your own franchise player is basically saying that you're a loser. So that's all I got to say.
I mean, that's kind of what Stan Kasten was like saying. He said, you know what, if that were true, more teams would be trying that approach in terms of like, if money could buy championships. But yeah, Cody, close us out with that. Their thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, everything about that is just kind of envy. You see what the Dodgers do during the offseason. I mean, you would expect former players in any professional sport to see what the Dodgers do and paying their players and looking to always compete year in and year out, regardless of the circumstances of the sport, and looking to add payroll, even though they just won a World Series. That's something that as a player, like, you should want for every sport, and that definitely increases the competitiveness of the sport. And some teams did it, and we got fortunate enough. A lot of the top payroll teams were in the final, couple rounds of the postseason this year. And the Blue Jays, as much as people want to deny it, they ranked 5th in payroll. They have a $500 million first baseman, all that stuff. And the Dodgers, they equally have a good payroll. People forget they were literally 2 outs away from losing the World Series. And a guy who was only making a handful of $1 million ended up hitting the tying home run in the World Series. And then a guy that they drafted and developed and got to a bargain deal for 10 years, he hits the go-ahead home run. So clearly it's a team effort. You can't take it away. Like Anthony said, I'm at the point where I really don't care anymore about what other teams say, because I just know the reason why they hate the Dodgers, because they aren't the Dodgers, and their team probably doesn't operate like ours until someone knocks us out. I mean, like I said, I'm going to be riding high. I don't really care what people say, and I expect the Dodgers to kind of go all in over the next 2 or 3 off seasons and try to capitalize on this window with Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. And then they'll still have one eye on the future, one eye on the present. So this run isn't ending anytime soon. We've said that time and time again. But yeah, at the end of the day, the Dodgers are good for baseball. What they've done, we just saw the viewership records that this World Series just did. And a lot of it has to do because of Japan and Canada and the United States all watching the one World Series. But a lot of people are talking about baseball. A lot of people are talking about baseball because of what the Dodgers are doing. There's a debate. At the end of the day, when you're talking about it, whether it's good or bad, that's money for the sport. And that's why, my bold take, especially when we go throughout this offseason and going to next offseason, I don't think there will be a lockout. I think both the teams and the players and the owners will see what's on the wall. They'll figure it out, and I still figure that they'll figure it out, and there won't be a cap. So that's where I think everything ends. I think the Dodgers should be they should be commended on what they've done for the organization and the sport as a whole. And I think a competent fan that has the right mindset will tell you that. I have Phillies fans here that say, we want to be what you guys are doing right now. It's just, you guys are on a roll, and it's hard to stop them.
I 100% agree. And I love that you brought up, like, I mean, think Rojas. Money wasn't the reason that Rojas hit the go ahead. He's the number 9 hitter that day. They were thinking probably about Shohei Ohtani, but that's not what got it done to get us into, the innings that made us win the World Series. So I am just so excited for Rojas. I know we've given him his flowers on the show. I know he's a friend of the Garden Asada, so he's been doing kind of like the trophy press tour. He's been all over the place, and he has just been shown so much love, and he's just the legend, a hero. And I really think after all these years in his career, to have it like kind of be this type of a thing for him, he's getting a lot of the, not that he was the only one that was responsible for our World Series title, but he's getting a lot of the accolades. And I just think that for Anthony, how deserved is it for Rojas to be getting all of this love and attention and, appreciation right now?
He said it himself too. It's kind of been like overwhelming for him too, because he's just
Mhm.
getting endless like kind of love from like all sorts of corners and places. But yeah, it's funny because before we even hopped on, randomly TikTok gave me that interview Jazz Chisholm gave, I forget for what podcast, where he kind of calls out Rojas saying like, "Oh yeah, like this is the kind of leader you want on your team," and like he's the only player that I can think of that has anything negative to say about Miguel
Mhm.
Rojas. And like the guys in our locker room, I've said it before, like they could have egos like through the roof just because of the resumes they've developed throughout their whole major league careers, and they all kind of like whenever Miguel Rojas speaks, like they shut up and they listen. Basically, they kind of like view him as like such a team leader. So I always find it funny, like the one guy that had a problem with him was Jazz Chisholm, and no one else has a problem with Miguel Rojas. But yeah, I feel like he's finally getting all his flowers, and like we said it, a lot of people really wanted this dude off the team, kind of halfway through the season, and we always felt like no, that's not something we would have to do unless it was something where it's a player like you feel would upgrade your team very a lot. But I don't know, with Miguel Rojas, I feel like I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that he's as well. Whether he resigns with us or not, that he's kind of getting a chance to end his career like on his own terms, especially considering how long he's had a big time impact on Dodger baseball. Not only just saving Kershaw's no hitter, but also kind of saving our ass in Game 7 and getting that home run there late. But so. Miguel Rojas will always be a legend, quote unquote, legend of Dodger baseball, just for like 2 moments in Dodger history specifically.
I love it. And he's hopefully finally going to get a bobblehead next season because I know it's what he really wants. Cody, those are the end of my notes. So just tug me down your final thoughts for Rojas and this entire show.
Yeah, Rojas, I mean, honestly, if you want to get down to the home run, it's arguably the most important home run in Dodgers history. And I think there was an interesting stat for like win probability or like championship win probability added with the hit. Will Smith was like number 1, and which makes sense because extra inning Game 7 go ahead home run. But I think Rojas is ranked like 3rd or 4th all time, which given the situation and, the player that's up to bat, I mean, just crazy, even as good as Freddie Freeman's hit was last year in Game 1, there was still, if the Dodgers lost that game, you still had games 2, 3, and 4 to like rebound off of that. But it was do or die in that moment. But nothing else other than just I'm ready for the offseason to get going. I know with the holidays coming, you will probably see hopefully some signings before those kick in. And then probably won't see much action until December. We're probably just going to get a bunch of rumors, reports, news, updates, all that stuff. That's all going to be updated on DodgersBeat.com. Anytime I see wind of a player showing semi-interest, I'll write about it, put their stats out there, kind of seeing what we're dealing with there. But definitely we'll have all those interviews up on our YouTube channel as well, but we'll also have them in written format. Steve Webb does a really good job at transcribing those and giving little extra details as well. But definitely thank you for all the support.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys. I mean, we're really close to 25,000 followers on our YouTube channel. So thank you for everyone who kind of followed us through the entire month of October. We are so grateful. So definitely don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification. But yeah, Anthony, your final thoughts?
It's not really a final thought, but we do have some breaking Yoshinobu Yamamoto news. He has added a new member to his family. He adopted a pit bull named Carlos. So Carlos
Carlos?
Yamamoto, yeah, I'm being for real. He posted it on his Instagram. Yeah. So Carlos Yamamoto, welcome to the team. I wonder if him and Decoy will be running around during the regular season. But yeah, maybe we get a Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead, and then Carlos is on to the side too as well
Oh my,
too.
I mean, does he not know his fan? Oh, is that? I haven't even looked at my phone. That's crazy. I love it. He's speaking Spanish at the rally, and he's naming his dog Carlos. I will take it. That is adorable. But yeah, I love it. Thank you for the breaking news. But yeah, definitely check out Cody and Steve Wood's articles on DodgersBeat.com. Check out his Substack. He keeps us informed until we go live or record again, but we'll definitely be keeping you informed when any breaking news or any news happens in Dodger world. Definitely check out our handles. You can find me, Drea, on Instagram at RavineQueen1958. You can find Anthony on X and Instagram at Anthony Acosta _, and you can find Cody on X at SnabelyCody6. And until next time, let's go Dodgers.